born on 5/5/26, so that makes me pushing 89. Not quite there yet. I was born in Bridgeport Hospital. My parents were Herbert Woodward Barlow and Marion Beach Barlow. My mother was from New Milford. Her family have always lived here. We lived in Bridgeport on Stratfield Road, Fairfield, until about 1932. And then we moved up here to be with my grandmother, I know, Juliet Beach, who lived in the house down at the end of the green in what is now the Little Billis Funeral Home. That house was has been in the family since 1850, I believe. But it was when my great-grandfather, Merritt Beach, bought it as a piece of real estate investment and so forth. New Milford was a town rather, of 5,200 people, whereas we're, 30,000 or so now. The Main Street School, which is the outside of the Congregational Church, was then, were grades 1 through 6, and I went to that school growing up. I graduated, went through high school over on East Street, which was then a very new building, and I was class of 1943 there. We had a thing that we did every year called the senior play, and performed over in the East Street School, which was the high school then, and I was in that. I think I was the father of somebody or other, but I don't remember much about it now. And then, because they knew I wanted to go into banking and things like that, they knew that if I had left it and not gone there and tried to get into college, that I would have had difficulty doing so. So I got admitted to Phillips Academy, Andover, Massachusetts, for 1 year, sort of a postgraduate course. And it was one of the hardest things I ever did, really, growing up, because here you knew everybody and everybody knew you, and I had lots of friends and so forth, and we all did a lot of the same things. Whereas up there, Phillips Academy, Andover, Massachusetts, was very college-like. You met all shapes, sizes, and varieties of students there who came from vastly different selections of backgrounds, family backgrounds, and growing up and so forth. After I graduated from Andover, I worked at the back here for the was the CM Beach Company, the brick building down on 30 Bridge Street, which is now an office building. Actually, it's the nicest office building, I think, in New Milford. And that was built in 1873 by my great-grandfather and his son, Merritt Beach. And the Merritt CM Beach Company was housed there. That was partially a tobacco warehouse, partially a hardware store. We had a building department, and we built a number of the houses in New Milford. Of course, the start of World War II. I remember I was going to Sunday school here next door. I remember coming back. Everybody was listening very closely to the radio. And that's when was December 7th. So we were all very much concerned about what was going to happen, and I did go in the service. I went in 1940, right after getting out of Andover in 1944, and I was in for 2 years. I was assigned to the Aberdeen Proving Ground down in Maryland, and for training, and then I was shipped by train out to the West Coast. Of course, we weren't told where we were going or anything at the time. Shipped to the Far East. I worked at Girard in Philadelphia from 59 to 69. And from 69 to 73, I was in London. And in an otherwise all English operation, working just under the English general manager, who was on occasion a mite difficult. I'm sure he probably found that I was too, but anyway, I had a great time in London. And I was there 4 years for them. Then I had an opportunity to set up my own operation, investment operation, which we did with Wayne Arnold, who was then the chief executive officer of the New Milford Savings Bank, and a close friend. I was introduced to a firm called Abacus Associates in New York, which owned an investment advisory company called Spears Abacus. And I introduced my clientele to them. That has worked very well. I serve as a consultant. Everybody's protected. If something happened to me, there would be continuity. My father was a civil engineer, and it was he who developed the business, working very closely with an architect, whatever architect it might be. We never built any houses or anything of that kind without an architect. This area was just beginning to become a pretty good place to live, or to have second houses. People from New York were up here. One family, particularly prominent, was the Pratt family, who were one of the founders of Standard Oil. But anyway, that's what we did. Well, population-wise, 5,200 people when I was at school, and it's now 30,000. New Milford is, of course, the largest town geographically in Connecticut, with 64.3 square miles. And it was always a tobacco community when I was young. Tobacco tended to fade out, and other things began to come in. And Route 7, which was all tobacco fields, was now all commercial. One of the disappointing things is that we didn't realize that we were losing the town green, or a good part of it. And I believe there were 12 or 13 houses disappeared from the town green in my lifetime, which is sad. But hopefully everything is well protected now. One of the things I enjoy about New Milford is the history of it, and history is one of my major hobbies. We at the Historical Society have interesting things that are developed, like the New Milford pottery, which my grandfather was a part owner of, along with 12 or 14 other business people. I have one sister. She's was Marion Barlow, rather. My mother was Marion Beach Barlow, and my sister is married and has a husband, and they have lived for over 50 years in San Francisco, having lived in Italy, Houston, Texas, and a couple of other places. And I have one nephew. They have one child, Marcy Kent Brown IV. I am a descendant of the Reverend Daniel Boardman through my mother, and I guess I would be, I don't know how, 10th generation back, probably. My uncle, who married my mother's sister, my uncle is Dr. Creighton Barker. He was from New Milford, his family was. The two Boardman sisters who liked to play cards with my grandfather, Charles Merritt Beach, and so when they just started talking about what they had done to the bicentennial, they'd worked on that, loan things and so forth. So they said, well, gee, we really ought to get something going. And so, as I said, my grandfather liked to play whist with the Boardman sisters. And of course, next we knew the thing was, this took a period of 8 years, I guess, but in the making. But the Boardman sisters left their house that their parents had built in 1880, which stood across the street from here, to the society. And my grandfather was the first president. And my father got interested in it. He was not from here, but he was interested in history and so forth. And he was president for quite a long time, ably assisted by Gwen Treat. This is Charles Treat, who's from a very old family in Bridgewater and here. And Charles Treat worked with my father at the CMH company at one time and so forth. We were great friends. I was president of it for a few years too. And I've always been interested in it, and it's we've really come a long way. Lots of different talents show up. History is in the making every day. For example, the Wannabe pottery, the Milford pottery that I mentioned, which went out of business in 1905, or 6, something like that. The Bridgeport Wood Finishing Company, which was centered down in Still River Bridge there, and out of those came the Robertson Bleachery in New Milford, which was the main source of business employment for. They employed about 400 people then, as I recall. And out of that, you've got the Maggie Company. I remember my father took his first airplane ride together with a bunch of men to go out to talk with the people at Maggie about coming here. Dr. Paul Stoll was the first Swiss man here who headed up the company, and the family stayed here. And daughter and lives up on Lake Mormont now.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. It was very nice to meet you and hear about your stories.
Well, it's nice to meet you.